Hi, I'm Holly McKenna, and welcome to our next taping of APL Literary Legends. Last month we had Pulitzer Prize-winning writer William Kennedy, and today we have our Times Union reporter and book writer Amy Biancolli, and I'd like to welcome Amy.
Hi, Holly. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us. So you're number two out of our list of three. We're very excited to be recognizing you and having you here. We're promoting you, and we're promoting the gala, which is in November. Almost a month away, 5 weeks. It's coming together. We're very excited, and this is a kind of good lead up to kind of give people a sense of what to, they're going to be meeting you at the gala, and we're just going to be talking about books and writers, and it's going to be in the library. It's just a love fest for all that.
I'm very happy to be in this sandwich between William Kennedy and Paul Grondal, because I don't really think I deserve to be in that trio of people. But thanks for inviting me, and thanks for making me a part of it.
You certainly do. You've been a writer for a long time. You were actually. You and your husband were writers, were recognized by the library years ago, right? It was a Friends of the Library, Author of the Year or something
Yeah,
like
my
that?
late husband, Chris Ringwald, was Author of the Year in, I think, 2002. And then 2 years later, I got the same award, back when it was Doc Rivette.
Yeah. So you've been writing books and writing, and so you shouldn't put yourself down by any means. Very, very exciting. So
anyway, I'm humbled and honored. So thank you.
We're thrilled to recognize you, and we're thrilled to have you on the show, and we'll look forward to having you, hobnob with the Albany. No, I'm just kidding. No, it's our Albany.
Do people in Albany hobnob?
No,
are we capable of hobnobbing? I think we're too humble to hobnob.
We're too humble. Yeah. We're not an ostentatious crowd. No, we're going to have just a fun time. Gala even seems a little stretched, but it's going to be nice. We're going to have nice appetizers, and we'll be dressed up, and we'll have a new art show up at that point at the Pine Hills branch, and it's going to be a lovely, lovely evening working with the Foundation Board and lots of people to get it together. So it's our first gala for the library to raise money for our programs and services, and for raising awareness for the library, because with all our new buildings and all the things that are being done at Maine, it's kind of like we're trying to really have a big presence.
Go library.
Go library, exactly. Got to get some bumper stickers and all that good stuff. But the Literary Legends is our new brand, black and white, and recognizing writers in our midst. Don't have to go very far, because we have a lot in Albany. I mean, it's really. I'm already working on next year's gala, and I've already got like a list of people. So it's exciting, because all the colleges and the newspapers, and there's so much writing that goes on here. It's just a really great. And William Kennedy kind of tapped into that with our Albany, and recognizing Albany as this very cool place. And also, I'm excited. We have a new mayor who's very much behind arts and events in Albany, and you just wrote a piece interview with her.
Interesting topic.
I just saw it today. It was actually on the downtown Albany website.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah, they linked it. So I'll forward you that email.
Yeah, that was from a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, and I'd read it, and then I was like, oh, they linked it to this thing again. So it's her initiative, just trying to get this place really ramped up in terms of arts and culture.
Yeah. Well, my feeling about Albany, which is saying there are all these writers here and also artists and everything, is that, and I always tell people from out of town, I don't really know it, I'm like, who don't really know Albany, I say, well, yes, it's small, but because it's small, we all bump into each other. We all know each other. And so that's one of the pleasures of being here. I mean, people sometimes use small Albany as a pejorative, but I like the fact that it's a workable community, and there's so many interesting people, and there are so many fascinating writers, and they're just regular folks and neighbors, and I enjoy it.
It is.
It's a good place.
It is. I feel the same way, and we live in the same neighborhood, so we run into people, but our friends who are, so many writer friends. It's really like, it's like, okay, like
another one.
other people in my circles, not so much in Albany, other places, like, wow, they live vicariously through me, because they don't have friends that are writers, and we have friends that are writers and musicians, and
move to downtown Albany.
That's right.
You'll be hipper than hip, because you won't pretend to be hip. You just will be.
You will be. You just will be, and you'll make lots of money doing it. No, just kidding. But having fun and ways that we can recognize each other's work and promote it. I love promoting. I mean, it's what I do anyway. I've always done for my job as a writer and communicator. But it's like, why not? Promote people that are writing right in my neighborhood, writing about things I know. So I'd just like to talk. I want to get to your book, which is placed on my stack here, but just kind of how you got to this point, what you've been doing the last few years. I mean, you've written a few books. I know that.
Yeah. Well, how did I get here? Well,
how'd you get?
There's how did I get to Albany, which is I married my late husband Chris in '91 and moved here. And at the time, I was living in the Boston area, and when we were engaged, he looked into the possibility of moving to Boston because he was at the time employed at the Times Union, but there weren't any opportunities in Boston, and I wound up with this freelancing arrangement with the TU. So I moved to Albany and stayed. I mean, I wound up going on staff at the TU in '92.
Okay.
And Chris and I bought a house and started having kids, and we found ourselves in that demographic. I think it's a specific demographic. Maybe we've had this conversation before, but I have this theory that Albany has certain demographic groups. I mean, we've got a lot of immigrants from different parts of the world, and then we have people whose families have been here for generations, going back to Dutch fur traders.
We've never actually had this conversation. So this
but then the third demographic group, to which I belong, consists of people who never planned on staying.
I'm one of those people.
Yeah, and the mayor too. Yeah. She came here 25 years ago.
Yeah, she's from Chicago.
Yeah,
right.
and I think the people in this group, they come here and they say, "Oh, yeah, this is interesting." They look around, they go, "Oh, it's diverse and it's got some fascinating, educated people who are unpretentious and." It's got fairly inexpensive housing.
Compared to some places. Oh my gosh,
And it's surrounded by mountain ranges, and it's
cows.
A city and cows. So and so even though Chris and I didn't plan on staying, we stayed, and I stayed at the TU until my third was born in 2000, and then just didn't go back after my maternity leave was over. And wound up freelancing and then going on staff for the Houston Chronicle as a film critic. Because initially I'd worked as an arts writer for the TU, and then I became film critic. And so I spent 7 years as film critic for Houston, which eventually kind of molded into this Hearst film critic gig, even though I was still employed by Houston, and the Times Union continued to run my reviews, and I never left Albany. That's I should make that clear, because
people always think you left. I'm like, no,
people always say, "Oh, she's back." Like, well, I never actually left. I would see the movies here or in New York City, and that was a great gig. But as has been happening in that subspecialty, film critics have been getting laid off all over the place, and that happened to me in late 2012, and I was lucky, blessed enough to go back into essentially my old gig at the TU as a local arts writer, and that's where I am now.
Yeah, and you're churning out copy like crazy.
Churning out copy. It's surrounded by these great colleagues, really interesting people, including Paul Grundle. And at the same time, I've written a couple books. In '98, I came out with a biography of Fritz Kreisler, the violinist.
Okay.
Fritz Kreisler, spelt with a K, not like the car. And then in 2004, I wrote my first memoir. Well, I published it print on demand. After a few years of getting really glorious rejection letters, as a writer that there are rejection letters, and then there are really great rejection letters, and
I just call that BS. But
it's
frustrating. It's frustrating.
It's frustrating. Thank you for writing this book. It was beautiful. It changed my life, but
not gonna. I can't put my heart into promoting it for you.
Or it's in my case, it was too nonlinear. It was too religious. It was too this. It was too that.
See, you get feedback. At least I don't get it. I just get like these, vague, generic.
Thank you.
And it's like it's nice to have a little, some feedback.
Yeah, it's nice to have something specific, but I just gave up after a few years. And,
a few years.
Yeah, and published it myself, and then this book. Can I say the title?
Yeah.
I can.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I hold the book up to the camera? Which camera? I go, okay, figuring shit out. And then, the subtitle is Love, Laughter, Suicide, and Survival. And I didn't plan on writing it. But a dear friend of mine, who also used to write for the Times-Union, Bob Whitaker, badgered me into writing it, because I had joked about writing a book. This was less than a year after Chris died, and he committed suicide. Unfortunately, I've had other suicides. Principally my sister's.
Was that in the
House of
book,
Holy
right?
Fools was the memoir that I published myself, and that addressed my sister's suicide and my father's attempt. But after Chris died, it was too much. I just couldn't. I was so exhausted. It was so hard just living through it that when friends of mine, especially these many friends of mine who are writers, suggested or asked whether I was journaling or anything, I said, no, I couldn't. No, it was just too exhausting. And I couldn't wrap my head around it. I thought I would never write about it. But weird stuff, weird shit kept happening. And it was surreal. And I would tell certain friends who I knew would laugh with me, because not everybody could laugh with me, and some of them could. And Bob was one of them. And I would just call him up, and we'd be in hysterics. And finally, after one of these conversations, I said, ha, Bob, I should write a book and call it Adventures in Widowhood. And I was joking, but he wouldn't leave me alone after that.
So he really hounded you.
Yeah, he really hounded me.
But you had a blog, too. Did that blog
But the blog came after.
After, okay.
Yeah.
I was wondering what the sequence is.
Yeah, and I started writing. Yeah, the sequence was.
Yeah.
I didn't blog at all at that point.
Okay.
And
I couldn't remember which way, chicken or the egg. I couldn't remember which one came first.
Yeah. Well, whichever, chicken or egg. The book
That's
came
the product.
First. Yeah, that's the product of it. Yeah, and so I started writing it, and it just like came out, and it felt, as soon as I started writing it, it felt like a compulsion. It felt necessary. It just had to happen. And it was a very strange thing to have it. It wasn't my idea, but once I started writing it was really healing me.
Good.
It was really healing for me, I should say, and allowed me to frame things that had happened and to understand, or not understand them, but just present them to myself in a way that I could move forward.
You have so much detail in there that I can't believe you weren't journaling. I mean, it's like, I thought you were writing literally from you must have had just so much in your head, so much.
Well, I was telling those stories.
in your head. And exactly, and it's just like the fact that you had so much detail was just, it seemed like you were writing as it was happening. So it just was just.
Well, I was, but it not the first part of the book, like the first 2/3.
The raw part, the new part.
Yeah, those stories I had told so many times that they were real, they were really present.
Okay.
But it was actually in the middle, the book covers pretty much the first year after Chris died.
Okay.
And it was in the middle of that first year when I started writing that book. So that's why I started writing it in present tense, because I was in the middle of it. So actually the last third to a half or so, maybe half, the last half I'd say, just roughly, I was living it and I was writing it. And I was going back and writing a lot of the stuff at the beginning first. I wrote it non-linearly, although I had an understanding of it in a linear progression. But so it's strange the way it just came out. And then when I finally found a publisher, the editorial director was the one who suggested the title change, and I thought, okay, because it was a phrase I used through the whole book, and. So I thought, if she's willing to go there, so am I.
And isn't it a word your Chris did not like that word? If I remember.
Oh, Chris, yeah, I talked about it in the book. Yeah, he didn't like it when I used that. So that's.
And how about the cover art?
The cover art. Thank you for prompting. Yeah, and just to remind you again, see the plunger. All right, that was my daughter Madeline's idea.
Go Madeline.
Yeah, go Madeline. That was brilliant. That was a masterstroke. So that's the origin of that book. And then afterward, my agent and the editor both really urged me when we were first discussing the possibility of the book with this publisher. They urged me to start blogging, and that's when I blogged with that name.
Okay, right, and
.net.
that's what I would see on Facebook, and I you know, I share it now. I have people say, "Where's Amy's blog?" You know, people want to read. You have a lot to say about love, laughter, suicide, and survival for sure. I mean, I don't know how deep you want to go in terms of like the circumstances. I mean, people knew it had happened. But people are always asking me because we know each other. How's Amy doing? How's she doing? How's she doing? And they're thrilled that you've written this book and the blog, and that you're surviving. You're surviving.
I thank God. I mean, I just count my blessings. And the people who surround me in Albany and elsewhere I count as huge blessings. The sense of community, because in the wake of this awful thing that happened, and it was a loss, obviously, for me and my kids, but there are a lot of people around here who were really hit by it and baffled, and I really felt the blessings of community in a real way, and I can't stress that enough, and I will always be grateful to everybody who just embraced us.
It's kind of, I have a friend who lost her whole family in a horrible plane crash a couple of years ago. Paul wrote about them, and she said it was exactly the same thing. Everyone just kind of lifted her up. Like she didn't know how she was like getting from point A to point B. Is the Casey family. The amazing story about Michael Casey, and just lifting you up, just literally getting you from here to there and so forth. You also have your faith, which I know has been a big factor. You have your kids, and I just think about if you had lived maybe somewhere else, that might not happen.
I couldn't imagine going through this in any other community. I mean, in part because Chris and I just had lived here for so long and had so many connections, and he was a man about town. He knew
everybody knew your husband.
Everyone. He knew everyone.
Yeah.
And if they didn't know him, they knew him just from seeing him walking around
But so many, because you got involved. Your family got involved. I knew you guys from church. I knew you from writing. Chris and I were colleagues at SUNY Albany, and then I worked for Chris for a while at the Evangelist.
Right.
I was freelancing for him. So many things. And then our kids know each other from schools, and sports, and that's this is the beauty of this town that we live in. It's all these different levels, layers of connecting. In connecting, and it's a wonderful thing. And in times of tragedy, oh my gosh, it's like a small town down south or something like that, where you talk about that in the book, the casseroles and the ziti and the dinner calendar and all that, and it was
stunning. And I said at the time, and I don't remember if I used this phrase exactly in the book. You'd think by now I would have it memorized because I proved it so many times, but it's all sort of bleeding together. That I felt so powerfully, and I still do, that God has meant that we were being, how would I say it? I'm trying to remember. I felt that we were being carried by God, and God has many hands.
Yeah, that's powerful, Amy.
But it's absolutely. There was no other way to describe the feeling, and it wasn't always necessarily. I mean, the people who were closest to us, yes, of course, they were present and they were loving. But I was so struck by the outreach and outpouring of support in large ways and small from people we didn't necessarily know that well, but who were also part of the community. And that to me was just the most beautiful gift. It really was. And I would not have been able to make it through. I mean, I would have made it through because I had to make it through. Because it's no option. You make it through.
Right. But you really had to almost kind of give yourself a con job in a lot of ways. I mean, you had your kids, but you were just, yourself just so devastated. I mean, we talked at one point, and you're like the love of your life. I mean, you, and to me, that's what this book is. It was laying around my house because we were doing this interview, and my mother-in-law, who is a new widow, my father-in-law died disease, but it's been 15 months and she just can't get past it. And she just, I joked about the title, 80-year-old proper lady. She's like, I don't care, let me read it. She took it home with her, and you gave me a new copy, which is great, so I will let her share that. She's in a bereavement group. She's trying to cope, and the stuff you talk about, even though they died under different circumstances, that whole idea of widowhood, dealing with loss like that. And she said, I can't believe how this has struck a chord in so many ways. And it was so powerful. She was just like, I'm taking this with me.
I'm grateful.
And that's great,
help.
So it's not even just suicide and it's but loss and widowhood. I mean, so many dimensions. You're such a good writer. And,
thank you.
And it just really, I haven't lost anybody, but I know Chris and I know you, but I was so glad I could be a conduit for my mother-in-law to say, here, there's some things that can help you figure things out.
Well, I'm glad I could too.
But I just see this as a reference for widows, because so many people don't talk about this stuff. They don't want to, because you're a journalist, I think, and you're so truthful. There's something so real about that for people, that so many people can't get that deep inside of themselves and admit. That's why when I emailed you after I'd read it, I said, I love the humor and I love the candor, because so many people, they use the humor to gloss over, because they can't get that deep because it's so painful. But you did both. You were up and down, which is what real comedy is really. I mean,
the tears
with Robin
as well
Williams. I mean, my gosh, these people, Jim Carrey, people who suffer from horrible depression, but yet are the funniest people we know. You know? So it's something.
I think
because
it just hurts. I just think life hurts. It's beautiful and it's full of love and joy. But I don't. In all honesty. No pun intended. Candor. Being raw and candid, there wasn't a choice. I don't have a choice any longer. I just don't. When Chris died, it was a news story because he was prominent, so people knew.
Yeah, it was a big
people
news story.
knew.
Yep.
And there was no way to pretend that he died any other way. And my reluctance to write about it was not a reluctance to talk about it frankly. Initially, it was just a reluctance to spend that time in my own grief because I was so tired. And anytime you write about this stuff, it's exhausting. You're revisiting it. There were times that I just sat there and the tears were streaming because I had to go back to that place.
I was tired for you because I just thought, for you to put this on paper, relive that.
It was exhausting, but it ultimately healing. But the fact of the matter is, I can't be afraid of looking at it honestly, because what's the point? Why go through something like that if you don't talk about it? If I'm in a position to talk about it. Not everybody is.
Well,
I'm
you're
okay.
a writer.
And plus, I'm at this point in my life, believe it or not, I was an introvert when I was younger, but at this point in my life, I'm not. I'm okay with talking about things generally, and I'm a writer. And so I'm in a position to communicate things honestly, and I frankly, what's going to hurt me at this point any longer? The enormous pain, the worst of it was what happened. So I'm okay with talking about it candidly, and I hope that if talking about these things candidly, with talking about the pain of widowhood and the bizarre physical aspect to it, like the ache that you feel, which I'd never heard about. Talking about that helps somebody else read it and go, oh my gosh, I felt that same touch deprivation too. I thought I was crazy. No, well, you're not. You're going to think you are because nobody talks about it.
Right.
But if I can talk about it, and if I can make it okay to talk about that, and to talk about suicide in a way that's honest, then maybe it served some purpose.
Absolutely.
So that's my only hope.
So the book's been published.
Yeah.
And what's up next for the book? And book signing tour, speaking tour.
Yeah. There are going to be some book signings in the works. We'll see how it goes. It's strange because my mother was a violinist. She was a concert violinist, and she would prepare and prepare and prepare for concerts, and then they'd be over. And she described it, the feeling of when it's over, as being like a popped balloon. And I feel like a popped balloon, but I also feel like a popped balloon who's kind of sitting around saying, well, what am I going to do next?
Yeah. Well, what are you going to do next after this book? Do you have another book in mind?
Well, I have some ideas, and I want to get back to working on some plays that I've been fiddling with.
Didn't you do a play at Cap Rep?
Yeah, I had a staged reading down there of a play based on my book about Fritz Kreisler.
That's right. Okay.
Yeah, play with music. So I'm going to look at that. And we'll see. We'll see what comes next.
It's a beautiful thing.
It's life. Life just keeps pushing and pressing along.
That's right. Well, that's the survival part.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Certainly. And you did allude to somebody in the book. Is there somebody?
Well, I don't want to. The book ended ambiguously on that front, but I have met somebody. I do have a really wonderful new person in my life.
Yay.
So not necessarily the person at the end of the book, but he's a gift. So
wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's something you talk about too, the loneliness that people think you're just, of course you're still missing this person, but this person is not here. And again, about your survival, as a
and for
person.
me, the happy ending at the end of that first year was realizing that I could even just go on a date. I just spoiled the ending. But it's basically my realization that I could go on a date. And that's the happy ending.
It's involvement. It's the way you craft it. It's not just you just blurt out that. It's just because your emotions. It's great to see, and I think that will help a lot of people get, how do you get to that point again, point A to point B? Your husband dies tragically, and then a year or two later, things have changed.
No, I mean it's 3 years out, and
it is 3 years. Yeah, it was just
recently. I have love in my life again. I have my kids. My universe has expanded.
Yeah, you have more people in your life than ever.
Yeah, right? And so, the book represents it ends on a happy note, and I'm glad. I just spoiled it.
No, but it's just the way you evolve it, because so many people know that you have somebody in your life, so it's not like it's a surprise ending, But it's just the way you share all that and get to that point, and I think that's what's fun to read, to find out. How you mentally.
But I do want to clarify, since it's not actually just it's not the person anyway.
Right. No, I hear you.
Okay.
No. But that loneliness factor has evolved, and it's not weighing you down anymore.
Well, that to me was the miracle. Just to say I'm alive and I can love and I can be and I can laugh. And I can just embrace life and say not everything is going to be bad from this point. They're going to be good things.
Did you do any kind of bereavement counseling or anything like that? Did you?
I went to a grief counselor a few times, and there was also a psychiatrist I saw a few times, just as checkups, sort of, or tune-ups rather.
Right.
Like I would go in and say, I need to work on the guilt, or what have you. And it was useful in that way. But mostly I think I just embraced, or felt embraced by friends who would listen. I mean, I think a lot of people deserve to copay.
There's your humor coming out. A copay, that they listen to you, but that's what friends do. That's what people who care about you will listen. They'll listen, and you are, unfortunately, there's a lot of people, young people that die. People just don't deal with that. As a society, it's like, no, you're supposed to live to a ripe old age and then you die, and you've had to learn that the hard way.
Yeah.
And your kids seem to be doing great.
Yeah, the kids are great. They're blessings. They inspire me. And I'm this boy.
You're strong. You're strong people. You are strong people.
Yeah. See, I have this theory though that strength is actually just acknowledging that life is full of brokenness. and if you roll with it, then you don't break. Or maybe you're already broken. That was sort of the epiphany that I had, that, okay, I'm already broken. I'm a mess. And if you acknowledge that and you don't expect things to be perfect and you just go through it and say, I will go through this and I will get out of bed this morning. I am not going to be curled up in a ball. I'm going to go out and force myself, act as if. You used a phrase like, what, delude yourself or something? And that's it. I mean, you just have
It's a con job.
That's what it is. Yeah, it's a con job. I mean, I did a con job on myself.
Yeah.
I had to because I had the kids.
Happy face, you know.
I had to, happy face. I mean, but thank God. Thank God.
Yeah.
Literally. Because I had to get out of bed in the morning. I had a job. I had my kids. That was the main thing.
Yeah.
I had to show them that I could be happy, that I could live, that life was still worth living. And I would go outside and I would laugh if I could with my friends and neighbors and just say hi to the mailman.
Yeah.
I mean, this is what keeps us tethered. We have to feel as though we're connected to other people, even in the worst of it. And I just think this is, obviously, this is not a situation exactly that most people are going to go through, but everybody has their pain, everybody has their troubles.
That's right. Everybody has something they have to survive through.
Yeah.
And that's why I think the book is going to be so teachable, reachable for people, that it isn't, it's a certain set of circumstances, but it is. Life is hard. Life is really hard, and getting how to get it through it. And people want to know how people get through it. They like that. They like those tools. Give me that. How'd you do it? Well, this and that, So
I don't know. I don't know that I have any. It makes me happy to hear that maybe the book helped your mother-in-law, because my hope is that maybe it could touch a couple of people that way.
Oh, I think it will. Not just a couple. I think it'll touch a lot of people.
Well, like everybody knows loss of some kind.
Right. They do. But just being able to talk about it like that, so many people don't know how to, because you're a writer and you're a real person, you really dig deep to share that, which is especially this, because you said it was so public and so out there. Like, a lot of times people don't want to even ever go there. So.
But see, I didn't have a choice. I really felt as though I didn't have a choice. It wasn't an option. I mean, often life doesn't give you options.
So. Well, Amy, this has been great. Thanks for all the talk. Hopefully I didn't stir up too much pain, but I think it's a message that's worth sharing, and the book is certainly worth reading.
Well, I appreciate your inviting me on the show and inviting me to take part in this, with this pairing of Bill and Paul.
Right.
I'm still a little odd, but thank you, and thanks for asking the questions. And
so good luck with the publishing, and good luck with with the promotion, and good luck with your next project. And look forward to seeing you at the gala.
Thank you.
Thanks, Amy.
All right.
Take care.
You too.
All right. It's a